Hello everyone, my name is Keely. Welcome to my channel. Welcome back if you've been here before, and welcome to episode 2 of TBR Take Down. If you missed episode 1, TBR Take Down is a new series that I'm doing on my channel to help me read down my physical TBR. I have almost 200 unread books that I am really excited to get to, so I thought I could create these fun little themed vlogs to help me read down my TBR and essentially take it down. So the theme for this one is sequels. In November, I am trying to focus on sequels because there are so many series that I am in the middle of and so many recent releases that I just haven't picked up yet for some reason. So in this video, there are 3 sequels that I want to get to, and the first one is Hunting Prince Dracula by Carrie Maniscalco. So this is kind of a historical series. It's very dark and murdery. So in the first one, Stalking Jack the Ripper, we follow Audrey Rose, and it is set 1800s London, and of course, she doesn't want to be like the typical girl. She wants to work, and not only that, but she is interested in science and forensics, so she shadows her uncle who does autopsies. And of course, Jack the Ripper is murdering people, and so she gets wrapped up trying to solve the case. I believe this sequel takes place in Romania, and the first one I enjoyed, but it was only 4 stars for me because I felt like something was missing, so hopefully Hunting Prince Dracula hits the mark. The next book I want to pick up is All of Our Demise by Amanda Foody and Christine Lynn Herman, and this is the sequel to All of Us Villains. And I think that this is also a duology, so once I complete this book, I will have finished a series. So the first book follows 7 different families. We are set in this kingdom where every 20 years there is a deadly tournament, and every family sends one champion into the tournament where they have to fight to the death, and the winner gets the high magic for the next 20 years. The first one was really fast-paced and really fun and intriguing. I love the magic system, so I'm hoping this one does just as well as the first one. And the last book I want to read in this vlog is The Merciless Ones by Namina Forna. This is the sequel to The Gilded Ones, which was one of my favorite books that I read last year. So the first book follows 16-year-old Decca, and when you turn 16 in this world, you have a blood ceremony. And if your blood runs red, you are good to go to join the rest of the village, but if your blood runs gold, then you are said to be a monster. And of course, Decca's blood runs gold, and so she is imprisoned. While she is in prison, a woman visits her in the middle of the night and says, "You can stay here and die, or you can come and join me and a group of women warriors." And it was just really amazing. Like, I loved it so much. I almost feel like I should reread it, but I don't know. I feel like I remember enough of it, and I'm hoping this one recaps enough of that first one. There are warriors, there are monsters, there's like mythology. It's really cool, and they also, in the first one, go to train as a warrior, which is really fascinating. But yes, I'm hoping this one is just as great as the first one. Alright, so those are the 3 books that I am hoping to get to in this vlog, and hopefully they are all just as great as the first ones. Hello, Keely from the future. I forgot to put this in my intro, but this vlog will be spoiler free for all of these series. I know I'm reading sequels, but there will be no spoilers in this vlog, so you can watch it freely even if you haven't read the first one. Alright, it's time for my first update, and man, is it a good one. So it is currently November 1st, and I started reading Hunting Prince Dracula today, and I am already halfway through this book, and I am loving it. It is going so well. So in this one, we are actually in Romania, and we're still following Audrey Rose and Thomas Cresswell, but they are at a forensic school in Romania, and the setting is just really incredible. It is honestly giving me like dark academia feels. I absolutely love it. It is very snowy. They're in winter. It is December in this book, which is just iconic. Like, December in Romania, the vibes, I can't get past it. Also, the school that they're in is set in an old castle, so it's giving me very much Hogwarts vibes. Like, everything they're describing, I'm basically picturing Hogwarts, and there's even secret tunnels, and there's a village like down the path that they go to, and I'm picturing like Hogsmeade, and I'm just really, really loving it. And the murders in here are very intriguing because, as you can tell, Dracula, they're very vampiric in nature. There are like vampire marks, there's stakes going on, like actually staking through the heart. It's just really great. I also really like Audrey Rose in this one. I loved her in the first one too. She was my favorite character, and I do like her in this one, but there are certain things that are making me angry that she's doing because I understand Thomas's side of things more than her, and so when she gets angry at him for certain things, I'm just like, Audrey, just like, come on, you got it, it's fine. And also, Thomas Cresswell in this book, I am loving him. Okay, so in the first book, one of the reasons I didn't give it a full 5 stars was because the relationship between Thomas and Audrey Rose was not my favorite. I could see the appeal of Thomas, but I wasn't fully there with him yet. But in this one, I am all the way for Thomas Cresswell. I absolutely love him. We are seeing a more emotional side of him, because in the first one, we typically just saw a more analytical or deductive reasoning side of him, but this time we're getting that, plus the emotional side, and I just really, really love it. And you can really see how much he cares for Audrey Rose in this, and I am definitely feeling the relationship more. And that's one of the things, because sometimes Thomas will do things that angers Audrey Rose, and so she'll get mad at him, and I'm just like, no, but he's so sweet. Like, why can't you see the thing that he's doing is actually really sweet and romantic? And she's just very independent, and which is great. But because she's so independent and wants to be her own woman, she doesn't want Thomas to speak for her at all. And when he does, he's not doing it intentionally. I'm just obsessed with this romance so far. I'm obsessed with the setting. I think this is really, really cool. And I also love how in this one I have no idea where it's gonna go. I feel like in Stalking Jack the Ripper, I kind of knew more of the general direction because I was so familiar with the Jack the Ripper case. I knew how the murders happened, where they took place, when they took place. But in this one, I have no idea what's coming next. I have no idea who's gonna die next or how it's gonna happen. And I am so intrigued to find out the mystery of like the vampires, or the strigoi as they're calling in this, because it's Romanian mythology. It's so interesting to find out more about Romanian mythology, and it's honestly reminding me a lot of Vampire Academy in that way too, because they do talk about the strigoi, which is obviously a main thing in Vampire Academy. But yes, I am loving this one so much. I am so curious for the rest of the series because I don't know how anything could top this book, because it is just perfect right now. Hopefully the second half is just as good as the first half, but the vibes once again are just immaculate. Chef's kiss, absolutely love it. I love the scene, the setting, the castle vibes, the academic side of things, because we're also in the classroom. They have like a folklore class, which is really cool, but then they have like an autopsy class, which I absolutely love. Also, I never mentioned in this vlog yet that I also studied forensics, and so the fact that Audrey Rose and Thomas Cresswell are studying forensics, I'm like, yes, I love it. I love learning all about that. It is so great, so amazing. So yes, I guess I will update you when I have finished the book, unless something like crazy happens. It is currently like exactly at 5 p.m. So I am going to read more today. I don't know how far I'll get in the book, but I'm going to read more, and so I'm hoping to finish this tomorrow, and I will update you then when I do. But yes, so far so great. Alright, it's the next day and you are currently balanced on one of my Squishmallows, but I had to update and tell you I just finished hunting Prince Dracula, and honestly I feel like in my last clip my thoughts were like all sorts of incoherent, but my thoughts never changed. I loved this so much. Like, I just feel like my love for this book is pouring out, seriously. There were so many lines in this book that I was just absolutely obsessed with, and I would read 3 or 4 times over and over because it was just beautifully written. And like some of the things that Thomas Cresswell says, even Audrey Rose, I'm just like, oh my gosh, like y'all are just stunning people. Love it. It's amazing. Also, like the second half of this book really reminded me of Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. Like if you read this, you might understand. But I already said in my first clip that the castle that they're in, the snowy setting that they're in, reminds me so much of Harry Potter. And then things started happening and I was like, this is kind of like Chamber of Secrets, and I loved it so much. There were also some scenes in here that I was like shivering because I was like, oh my gosh, that's kind of spooky. And there was a water scene in here that was actually kind of scary, but I loved it. It was so great. I love Audrey Rose and I love Thomas. Like in the first book, I was like, everyone's loving him and I'm not really seeing it yet. But now he's my favorite character. I love Thomas Cresswell so, so much. And this was just one of my favorite settings ever. Like, Romania, I need more books set in Romania. It was so good. So if you couldn't tell, I'm giving this one 5 out of 5 stars. And that means I'm going to pick up my next book. And I've decided to pick up All of Our Demise by Christine Lynn Herman and Amanda Foody. I loved All of Us Villains earlier this year, so hopefully this one goes just as well. This one is bigger. I think it's like 460 something pages, but the first one read very quickly. They had short chapters, so hopefully this one has short chapters as well, and the way the story is told just read really quickly, so hopefully I'm in love with this one as much as the first one and as much as Hunting Prince Dracula. So also, when I read Stalking Jack the Ripper, I put in my wrap-up when I was talking about it that I was like, this setup for this book sounds like my perfect book. I can't understand why it's not 4 stars. I just feel like there's going to be something that I love more than this. And I was right. I was right. This was so good. Oh my gosh, I loved it so much. Also, sorry my face is like super flushed. I get overheated. Perks of living in Texas. But yeah, so that's my thoughts on that. And then I'm going to go start All of Us Villains. No. All of Our Demise, and hopefully it's just as great. Alright, I wanted to give you a little tiny update real quick because I did start All of Our Demise. I'm not that far in. I am only on page 60. But when I first picked this up, there were some parts in here that I was a little confused with because I did read the first book a few months ago, and I guess I had forgotten like some of the details. A lot of the big things that happened in the first one I remembered, but I couldn't remember how we got to that point or why, or like how certain things happened. So what I did this morning was I picked up the first one and I read a few chapters at the end of the book just to like reread those big reveals again and get set in that scene. And then I read more of this and I am now fully invested. It is reading really quickly and I am starting to remember all the things that happen and all the characters and their backstories, because each character in here is really unique. There are 7 champions in like this duology, and you get the point of view of several of them, and so that could be overwhelming, but it's not, because it is written so uniquely and each character has their own different voice, which I really enjoy. But yeah, so far it's going good. I love the vibes. It's going great. I'm having fun. But you know how some like sequels kind of do like a recap thing, and sometimes it can be kind of annoying for certain people. I love that, and I kind of wish this did it more. I feel like it does it a little bit, but I wish it recapped more, just because I was a little confused jumping into this one again. But the confusion isn't hindering my enjoyment. I don't want you to think that it's hindering how I feel, because I'm having a great time being back with these characters. I love Alistair, and I feel like Alistair is like the #1 emo bad boy. Like, I love him, and every time he's on the page, I'm picturing Timothée Chalamet. Like, if you've read this, tell me that's not perfect casting, because I need Timothy to be Alistair. I love Alistair so much. I think he's my favorite character. I do really care about a lot of these characters, but I think Alistair is my favorite. And I don't know. I'm curious, like, are any of them gonna die? We have seen some deaths, like, in the first one, so I'm curious in the second one. Also, the way this opens, it's like, wow. Because the way the first one ends, I wanted to see that scene, and we don't get that scene, but we get, like, hints to what happened, and I'm like, man, I wish I was there, because it would have been crazy. But yeah, so far so good, and I'm gonna read more of it later today. Alright, so I wanted to update you real quick before I go to work. I am not quite halfway through All of Our Demise. I am on page 181, so a little over halfway, or a little before halfway. But I needed to update you before work because I know I'm gonna probably read a lot today, and I'm probably gonna get past halfway at work, so I thought I would update you before we get too far in the book. And I'm enjoying it, but not as much as the first one. This book is a lot slower because there's a lot of things that need wrapping up, because this is the like sequel and the conclusion, because it's only a duology. So a lot of things need to be wrapped up and a lot of questions need to be answered. And so I feel like things are going slower because they are trying to figure out all these different things. Like, I'm pretty sure there's only been 1 attack scene so far in 180 pages. But yeah, it's interesting to see more of the world, and I love the magic, and so I wish we did get more attack scenes because the magic is so fascinating. Also, in this book, there are like 2 separate groups in the tournament now, and I definitely prefer one group over the other. I love all the characters in this. I've heard some people say that they have a hard time connecting to all the characters, but from the very first book, from the very first chapter, I have connected to every single character. But in this book, I'm finding myself liking some other characters way more than other ones now, because I feel like I'm falling more on the side of another group. I'm trying to be very vague so I don't like spoil anything, but I'm still having a good time. I'm just definitely not enjoying it as much as the first one because I don't feel like it's as fast paced, but I love the writing. Like, this is written by 2 authors, but they write together so seamlessly and it just flows perfectly, and I really, really enjoy it. Also, I don't read with the dust jacket on, so let me show you what the book looks like without the dust jacket, because there is a design on the front. So look at that. You get to see the hand with like the spell stone and the curse stone on it and like the magic going everywhere. It's so fascinating because they put magic into these stones, and then whenever they use the magic, like the stones glow and they come out through the stone. It's really cool. So they have like their hand full of rings. It reminds me of like Thanos with like the glove. But yeah, so I'm 180 pages in. I don't know how much I'll read today, but I'm assuming that I will be far past halfway by the end of the day, but we will see, and hopefully my enjoyment goes up a little bit more. Right now it's sitting like at a 4 stars, so it's still a great book. It's just not like the first one or like Hunting Prince Dracula. Ugh, love that book. I keep thinking about that book. I like have dreams about it. I love that book. But anyway, yes, All of Our Demise, so far so good. All right, I have quite the update for you because it's been like a day or 2 since I last updated you. And since my last update, I did finish All of Our Demise by Amanda Foody and Christine Lynn Herman. And I will say this one was not nearly as good as the first one. The first one I easily gave 5 out of 5 stars. And this one was kind of a disappointment, but not the biggest disappointment I've ever had. This book was significantly longer. Well, I don't know about significantly, but it was longer than the first book. And I just felt like at times it was too long. There were also 2 relationships in here that were introduced that have never been talked about before, and one of them would die for. Absolutely love them. The other one, like, makes me nauseous. Like, I don't understand what she sees in this guy, but, like, it made me nauseous. It made me cringe, and every time they talked, I was like, girl, like, you need to get your priorities straight. But the other relationship would die for them. Absolutely love them. So I did mention in the first book I loved every single character, but in this one I was kind of choosing sides, and it felt like choosing sides for my kids, but at the end of it there were more characters in here that I loved and some that I didn't like as much at the end, but not that I hated them, I just definitely had favorites. And Alistair is my all-time favorite character in this duology. Absolutely love him. He could do no wrong. Like, anytime he murders someone, I'm like, yes, like, they deserved it, you know? But I really love Alistair. Also, in this book, there's a lot of trials that they have to complete within the tournament, and some of them were kind of weird. So a lot of the trials were, like, really deadly and dangerous, and then there was one that was thrown in there that was just, like, not. And I was like, this is, like, the JV trial versus the varsity trial, because it was just kind of pathetic and sad. But yeah, definitely not my favorite. I'm gonna give this one 3 out of 5 stars because I love the writing so much. I love the world, I love the magic system, and I really do like the characters. But yeah, I'd be interested if these 2 authors write anything more in the future together, because I really love how they write together, and it honestly felt like one author. It was so seamless. And yeah, 3 stars. I definitely recommend the first one, and honestly you could probably read it as a standalone. Like, it does leave a little open-ended, but I would have been happy with how it ended in the first one. But yeah, so I finished that series, so that's awesome. A series is completed. And then I do have an update because I started The Merciless Ones by Namina Forna, and I'm actually halfway through now. So I'm on page 228, and let me tell you, I do not like this. I am not thriving. I am not having a good time. The first one, The Gilded Ones, I absolutely loved it. Like, Decca was such a powerful, like, awesome character, really loved her, and in this one she just seems so weak and so fragile. And listen, I get it, she's been through a lot, she's been through the ringer, but like, how did she like have reverse character development, you know? Like, she was so strong in the first one, and this one she just falls apart at any moment, and it's so annoying. This also feels like a completely different story from the first one. Now, I understand that things happened in the first one and the way that it ended, that it has to go in a different direction because there's new characters and gods and everything introduced, but it just feels completely different. And this story is so chaotic and not in a good way. Like, there's so many things happening and none of them make sense. None of the descriptions are good. The writing in this one also feels so completely different from The Gilded Ones. This is told in first-person perspective, and I really hate that in this book. The first book, loved the writing. I loved everything about it. I had no complaints. And in this one, I just cannot get on with the writing. And it's the same author, so I just don't understand what's so different about it that I don't like. There's also characters in here, like the gods and goddesses, that I just don't like. I think there is too much, like, godly things going on, and maybe that's just not something that I like. I just don't like them, and there's a lot of questions that are arising, and a lot of who can you trust, you can't trust anyone, we have to kill everyone, we have to kidnap everyone, and it's just really annoying, not having a great time, but I do plan on finishing it. It's just kind of funny how in this vlog I started with like one of my new favorite sequels, and then slowly it's like going down. I'm sitting at like a 2 star for this one. Of course I'm not gonna fully rate it until I'm done, but right now I'm getting 2-star vibes. There has been a point where I'm like 1-star vibe. I just don't like the writing. I just don't like the characters, and everything is annoying and everyone's annoying. So that's where I'm at with this. But yeah, so those are my updates for now. I should read more of this today. I don't think I'll finish it today, but I have a suspicion that I will finish it tomorrow. So I will definitely, of course, update you when that happens. But yeah, so I will see you then. Ooh, my camera's at 6%, so I better go quick. Alright, I am here for the final update because I just finished The Merciless Ones by Namina Forna, and oh boy did I hate this. Like, genuinely hated this. I explained pretty well in my last clip why I wasn't liking this, and it just got so much worse. Decca in this book is a terrible character. I hated her. I thought she's so annoying. I loved her in the first book, but in this book, she is one of my least favorite characters I've ever read about. She is so wishy-washy and often hypocritical at times, and I cannot stand a hypocrite, but there's so many times where she just quickly trusts something, and then she finds out one little detail and she's like, oh, how could you betray me? And that happened like 16 times, like over and over and over again. Also in this book, it deals a lot with divine powers and arcane objects, which was not even a thing in the first book, so it just feels like it was kind of thrown onto us. Like, this felt like a completely different world than the first one without any world building, because it was supposed to be a sequel, but there was so much added to it and we were not told. Also, I mentioned the writing in this one was not good. It is written in first person, and so the entire time we are in Decca's head, and I hated being there. It is not a place I want to live. I hated it so much. So yeah, not great, and I will not be continuing with the series, because there is going to be another one based on how this one ended. I will not be continuing, which is such a shame, because these covers, I want to own all of them till the end of time. And I'm so tempted to just buy the next one so I can display them because they are beautiful, but I will not be continuing. I will not read any more of this. I would love to reread the Gildan ones and see if maybe I was just, you know, unconscious when I read it. But yes, I'm giving this one 1 star. Absolutely hated it. Now for a little recap. The first book I read was Hunting Prince Dracula. Y'all already know, a new favorite, 5 out of 5 stars. I'm obsessed. Oh my goodness. And then next I read All of Our Demise, and this one, while it was good, it was still disappointing, and I'm giving it 3 stars. So I think it's kind of funny how I started this video with my favorite, and then we also got like one of my least favorite books of the year. So you never know what we're gonna get in these videos. But yeah, that is it for this video. If you have made it this far, what should you leave? What emoji should you leave? Go ahead and leave the book stack emoji, because it's 3 books and we read 3 books in this video, trying to take down the TBR, if you will. But yeah, go ahead and leave the book stack emoji if you've made it this far. But that is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. As always, all my social media links will be down below, and I will see you next time. Bye!